Hello, Wendy.
Hello, Jane.
Welcome to Love Letters, Life, and Other Conversations. Hi, Wendy. How are you today?
I'm so great. How are you?
I'm so well, and so looking forward to part 2 of our Valentine's special.
Yes, me too.
So just to recap, we are using as a springboard a study by the psychologist Arthur Aron that explores whether intimacy between two strangers can be accelerated by having them ask each other a specific series of personal questions. There's 36 questions in all, and we're doing it in 3 parts. So this is part 2. This came to my attention quite a few years ago. There is an author called Mandy Catron, and she wrote a modern love essay called "To Fall in Love with Anyone, Do This." And not that you and I are trying to fall in love. We already adore each other. But it's just such an incredibly interesting exercise. And the whole idea is that through mutual vulnerability, we foster closeness. The whole idea is that to develop a really close connection relationship, it requires sustained, escalating, reciprocal, personal self-disclosure.
I love that
No, you do.
much.
I said it again. And, and I quoted that from her essay. Shall I go first? We'll do it rapid.
Please. Yes, rapid fire.
Set 2, number 13, question number 13. So set 2 starts to get a little bit more intimate.
I'm here for it.
If a crystal ball could tell you the truth about yourself, your life, the future, or anything else, what would you want to know?
Wow, that's such a good question. I would want to know what my impact was.
Yeah, great. Well, I think that you would find that your impact, I don't think we should go into what we would find, otherwise we'll be here for hours. But I've just got to say that I think your impact would be that you celebrate people and show people a level of interest and connection and hospitality far beyond your regular girl. So
there you go. I'm in love. Thank you for that. That was very generous. Thank you.
Oh, well, I don't know about that being generous. I'm just being truthful.
That I appreciate it.
Question, Wendy?
Yes. How about you? What would you like to know?
All could tell you the truth about yourself, your life, the future, or anything else. What would you want to know? I would want to know what my closest people would say about me at my funeral.
Ooh, that's good.
Because that could be something to live by, couldn't it?
Yes. Yes. And I know we're trying to keep it brief, but it's so hard. It is. I'm reading a book called Hero on a Mission by Donald Miller. And it starts by writing your own eulogy. And then using that to, what are your 5, 10, 20, and 30-year goals so that you can get to that eulogy being an accurate reflection of what actually happened.
We've talked about it in I Want More the Next 30 Years.
Exactly.
What is the end? Look at it, frame it, feel it, touch it, smell it, see it, experience it, and then work out how you're going to get there. Well, that's what I think about the crystal ball question.
Yep.
If I knew what my people, what my loved ones would say about me at my funeral, then that would be a prescription to live by.
Right. And I think you can reverse engineering that, right? It's like you live your life for the people that will be in the room when you die.
Mhm.
That's beautiful. Okay. That's obviously an entire podcast. We'll come back to that. Number 14. Is there something that you've dreamed of doing for a long time? And why haven't you done it?
Is there something that I've dreamed of doing for a long time, and why haven't I done it? I have dreamt of living in Paris for a long time. I want to live in one of the arrondissements or villages in Paris. And why haven't I done it? Because I don't think I've been aligned to do it.
Okay.
I don't think that it has been an easy thing to align myself with. But who knows what's around the corner, right?
Right?
Is there something that you've dreamed of doing for a long time, and why haven't you done it?
There is. I'm glad to say that I am working toward it because it is really important. So my dear friend, Jeff, is a chef, and he retired and moved to France 3-4 years ago. And I have long wanted to take culinary trips, adventures to cook with him because it's just dreamy and it's good and it's fabulous. So I have let all sorts of things come in the way between me and that dream. And so I'm very glad, like you're looking into ways that you can live in Paris. And I too have a trip planned in April to go cook with Jeff. So it's
so
hard
excited.
to think of. I'm really excited. I'm excited.
The thing is that you have done it because you put it out there. You have people booked in to do it, and it's happening.
It's
so
happening.
It's great.
And I have dreamed about it for a really long time. So I'm glad it's going to happen.
Even better.
Yeah.
Okay, number 15. What is the greatest accomplishment of your life?
Raising Amelia.
And right back at you, raising my children. Couldn't agree.
Yes.
Easy.
Right? That's a good one. Okay, number 16. What do you value most in a friendship?
Vulnerability and raw, almost. When I say raw, I mean hard. I mean peeling back the layers, vulnerability. And
yeah, I mean, and that speaks to your word of connection being so important to you.
What about you, Wendy? What do you value most in a friendship?
I value a joy, and I value somebody letting me celebrate them and the opportunity to receive celebration in return. So I guess reciprocal joy is what I value.
Beautiful. So you're more about the joy, and I'm more about the let's wade through the murky waters and get, really muddy and hear each other's deepest, darkest secrets. Isn't that funny?
It is funny. I love it.
Wendy, what is the most treasured memory?
Again, I'm on an Amelia theme. I'm going to say the day that we became a family in China. And it's, it's treasured. We waited a long time. My experience with trying to grow my family was over 25 years long. And just the wait for Amelia herself was 10 years in the queue for China. So it's a very treasured memory because I worked hard to get there. And, it felt like an end, but it was just a beginning. So I think that's why it's treasured, because it's so layered.
And tell me, do you lie in bed sometimes at night and remember every moment of that day?
Yes. And I share it with her often. She'll ask me again and again to tell her the story.
Yes, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Well,
How about
my
you?
most treasured memory is actually the day that my firstborn was born.
Oh,
And it was only actually 2 nights ago, it might have been last night actually, that I lay in bed and I try to go through the whole sort of lead up to getting to the hospital, the birth, and I try to remember as many memories as I can. I mean, I have it all in their baby books, but I love to revisit it in my mind. And I just remember with when Lockie was born, this overwhelming, I was, like, I'm sure I'm not particularly special in memory, but I was completely overwhelmed.
Hmm.
I had the whole adoption factor that came into play.
Sure.
I looked at this little person, and I only told him this when he became a father a couple of years ago. And I said it was the most treasured memory of my life because it was the first day that I had ever met anyone that I was biologically linked to. And he did what you're doing. He covered him and he
Webster.
went into tears. He said,
That's
"Mum,
so
you've
cool.
never told me that." And I said, "It was really, really special, Locke. You were the very first person that I ever met who was a blood relative." That's a big thing for adopted people.
That's so beautiful. I'm crying. That's gorgeous. Thank you. What a treasure. Thanks for sharing that.
That is my most treasured memory. And I run through all their births, but because he was my first and he was my first ever blood relative ever, I was hysterical.
I bet.
It really hit me.
Sure.
Number 18.
What is your most terrible?
Oh, terrible memory. What is your most terrible memory? My most terrible memory was the morning in 2007 that my dad rang me he rang me very early in the morning on the 27th of May, my daughter's birthday, eldest daughter's birthday. And he just croaked into the phone, "Darling, I think you better come round here. I can't wake Mum."
Oh, Jane.
And I got in the car and I drove around thinking, silly old fool, she's just having a sleep in. And I went in and I sat on the side of the bed and, she had her hands underneath her cheeks and she looked very peaceful but she was indeed dead. And she died the night before, in her sleep. So she died on the 26th of May. But it was my most terrible memory because when I realized that she had died, I then rang 000 in Australia and the ambulance came, the police came, the coroner came, the fire engines came, they all came. And they took Dad into one corner and me into another and questioned us.
Oh, gosh.
2 police officers went through all my mother's medication and I said to the policewoman that was with me, I said, are we suspects? And she said, not at all, but it's very rare for people to die in their sleep at home.
Oh, my. Oh, and we both said in our last podcast that that's how we're both going.
I know, but it's rare. It's quite rare.
Well, as are we.
We are rare birds.
We are. Okay.
So funny that we've just said that. I said that to someone the other day, that she was a very rare bird.
That's
And I've
us.
just said that to you as well. Well, I think we are.
There's a whole flock of us. We're fabulous.
What's your most terrible memory?
My most terrible memory is also about a parent's passing. So my daddy passed in November of 2020 after contracting COVID. And a part of him between getting sick and getting being hospitalized was several days. And because of the low oxygen levels, his brain did not have the oxygen that it needed. So when he was hospitalized, the 2 weeks that he was hospitalized before he died, he was not himself. And he did not know where he was. He did not know who he was. And I would call and talk to him. And at one point, he finished a call with me, but didn't hang up the phone. And I could hear him like calling out, just crying out, and not being
Attended to.
good and not feeling safe. And I was on the other side of the country, and I couldn't, I mean, if I was next door, I couldn't go in because of the regulations. It was before vaccines and all of that. So that is my most terrible memory. And
it's shocking. And those oxygen levels are so scary. I had no idea. I mean, I have an oxygen thermometer thing here.
Good. It's important.
Only because I've probably got the biggest hypochondriac of a husband in the whole world. So he said to me, the oxygen meter or it's called a pulse oximeter.
Okay.
There, and I want you to take your oxygen levels,
Right.
3 times a day while I had COVID.
Good. It's important.
And I spoke to my friends Bobby and Yari, and they were ringing me every few hours and saying, "What's your oxygen levels?" Because they knew I had one of these things, and I'd tell them, and they said at one point, if it goes 1% lower, you're going to hospital, because you just don't know. You don't feel anything when your oxygen levels are low.
Right. But you're tired, so sleep. Right.
Yeah. So it's a silent killer, really.
It really is. And it's cruel and it's mean. And I'm glad we have more questions.
Yeah.
If you knew that in 1 year you would die suddenly, would you change anything about the way you are now living, and why?
Yes. I would overnight instigate every single thing that I have written into my I Want More the Next 30 Years prescription, which you've seen.
Yes.
A couple of things that were a little bit too personal that I left out of it when I gave it the course to the group. But yeah, I would instigate all of that immediately.
Right. And how great that you already have that script. It's beautiful.
Yes. If you knew that in 1 year you would die suddenly, would you change anything about the way you are now living, and why?
Yes, I would. I would, I would do something really similar to what you have done with your life. I would, since I'm only going to live for a year, I'm not going to buy it. I would rent a chateau in France, and I would have an open invitation to all of my friends, everyone that's important, to come and be in this space
With you.
in this last year. Yes. And just,
Mm.
I want a big enough space for everybody that wants to be there to have a beautiful bed, and we could make these gorgeous memories, and it would just be beautiful.
Mm, mm.
Okay, number 20.
Yes.
What does friendship mean to you?
Friendship means to me honesty, anticipation, you know, knowing your friend and knowing how they're going to react to things, knowing when things are about to happen and anticipating how they might feel, whether it's sad or angry or sorrow or whatever, and trying to be there for them when whatever happens. Just that anticipation, I think, that someone cares enough to think about how can I, through my actions or my words, make this even the tiniest bit better for my friend.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yep. To me, friendship means an ear, a shoulder, and a hand.
Oh yeah, the hand is important. Love it. Okay, now we're getting tricky. Okay.
Right? Yeah.
One. What roles do love and affection play in your life?
A really important role for me. I don't know if you're familiar with, there's a book called The 5 Love Languages. And my love language is words of affirmation. So to me, like that's a sign of affection. It's the words that are used, it's the touch on the shoulder, it's just the I see you. So that's when I think of affection, I think of those are the things that I think of.
Okay.
How about you?
Love and affection. Well, I mean, they're just daily.
Right.
They're just daily things for me. Affection is there in every moment, whether I have a gentle feeling towards someone or a fondness or a liking. I don't see affection as a sexual thing. I see it as a all-encompassing part of deep friendship.
Agreed.
I know, some people would disagree with that. Some people see affection as more than that. And love, again, I don't bandy the word love around. I don't give it out freely, but when I feel it, I let the person know. And it's not always comfortable.
Right.
I have become more comfortable with letting the people I love know that I love them. I didn't grow up being told, I love you.
Oh.
At all. I don't know whether this would be edited, but I don't see why it should be. But my mother never told me that she loved me, not once. And I love her dearly, and I know that she loved me, but she didn't say the words. I know that she loved me, but she never once said it to me. And after Mum died, Dad and I started saying it to each other every time we got off the phone.
That's beautiful.
I, on the other hand, with my children, I probably tell them daily that I love them. And in the last, handful of years, I have told people that I love them. outside of my family. You know, I just think people need to know.
They do. I agree. I just want
And
to acknowledge that. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, I think that's why I find it so important to tell the people that I love them.
Absolutely.
And I don't apologize for it. It hasn't always been greeted with comfort.
Oh, okay.
Some people find it very uncomfortable and confronting, but for the most part, it's been pretty good. It's worked for me.
Well, keep at it, Jane. Just keep at it. Okay. This next question is my absolute favorite game ever. So I'm super excited to do this. And question 22, alternate sharing something you consider a positive characteristic of your partner. Share a total of 5 items. So
okay, we've got to go.
Yep, here we go. You are grace and goodness personified.
Oh, and you are one of the kindest human beings I have ever met.
Oh, you love people out loud.
And you are the most extraordinary mother to beautiful Amelia.
Oh, goo goo. You are an encourager with depth.
And you are an open book that listens to all my nonsense.
Oh, you honor people by being present in your conversation.
And you have honored me by allowing me to do this podcast with you, because it's your thing, Wendy Harrop. And I pushed my way in.
Well, your life is an invitation.
And you have the most beautiful mantra for your life, which is,
I am only available for what delights me.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Here we sit. Thank you for doing that. That's my favorite. Even if that wasn't on the list, I would have added it because that's a good one.
Okay. How close and warm is your family? Do you feel your childhood was happier than most other people's?
Well, it's very interesting because of what you said in an earlier conversation. So I'm going to have to say my childhood was incredibly close, incredibly warm, and incredibly happier than other people's. In our home, if you passed somebody in the hallway and didn't say, I love you, it was almost cause for a family meeting. Like, okay, what's going on with you? Let's check in. Is everything okay? We're not firing on all cylinders. We're not. And it wasn't this artificial level of joy and love. It just was joy and love. And it was a safe, beautiful container that I believed was everybody's safe container, and that I knew without a doubt that my parents loved and adored each other, that my parents loved and adored me, my siblings, my biological siblings, my foster siblings, all of us. Like, they loved Jesus, they loved us, they loved everyone around them. They just modeled this beautiful, happy, safe, celebratory space.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I will send my mother a thank you note as soon as we get off this call.
You should.
Yeah.
So my childhood home and family, we had a lovely, beautiful, I have nothing to complain about, but we did not tell each other that we loved each other.
Mhm.
When I was 12 years of age, my mum went back to university to do a PhD. And I became what I affectionately call Cinderella.
Oh,
And I did it with a smile on my face. And I was very happy doing it for a very long time. And then when I was about 17, I got very, very disgruntled with my role as Cinderella. I cooked every meal, I cleaned the house, I did all the washing, I did all the ironing, I did all the shopping, I did everything.
wow.
And there were three kids, but there was only one that did anything. And then I realized when I was in my late 20s that actually that was a blessing, because what I wanted to do, and I started to dream about this, I started to dream about France and hosting people and blah, blah, blah. It was like an internship. There is no way on God's earth that I would be able to do what I do today if I had not had that training from the age of 11.
Nice
And
spin.
that's
Very
how
good.
I genuinely like to look at it now. I'm very resentful for about 10 years,
Sure.
very resentful, because I felt that in some respects, a part of my childhood was taken away from me. But I'm not resentful about it at all anymore, because I would not be the multitasker or be able to do as much as I cram into every day if I had that training.
Beautiful. Good for you.
The University for Domesticity.
That's it. I love it. Okay, our last question for today. How do you feel about your relationship with your mother?
My mother was my best friend. Now, she may never have told me that she loved me, but the day before she died, I was over at her place and I had brought her over some chicken sandwiches and a little cake, and I made her a cup of tea. And my mum had severe diabetes and vascular disease. And I was getting her out of her bed and into her wheelchair because she had lost a leg. I don't know whether I've ever told you that. And she was clinging to me. And I said, Mum, well, trust me, I'm not going to let you go. And as I gently popped her into her wheelchair, she looked at me and she said, oh, darling, what would I ever do without you? And I just looked at her and smiled and said, you will never have to. And she died in her sleep that night. So they were the last words that we ever said to one another. And I actually think that that sums up my relationship with my mum.
How many times do you intend to make me cry in one podcast?
That's all, because
Okay.
that's the end of set 2. What about you? How do you feel about your relationship with your mother? Careful when.
Mhm. Right.
Careful.
She's listening.
I know you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this is how I can sum it up. When someone says you're just like your mother, I
Yeah.
say thank you.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. It was funny. Growing up, strangers would say, because I worked in mum's business for many years. She was a wedding dress designer, High Street, Armadale in Victoria, in Melbourne, which is like the wedding dress capital of Australia. But mum was the very first one in that strip. And complete strangers, or the mothers of the brides that we were dealing with, would say, oh, Aileen, my mum's name was Aileen. Aileen, oh, she's just like you. And my mum would just smile and she'd say, oh, isn't she? And mum and I would laugh afterwards because,
Right.
I was adopted and we didn't look anything alike at all. But there's that whole nature nurture thing.
Absolutely.
And I had her mannerisms. I'd picked up so many of her mannerisms. So, I think, don't know why I was telling you that bit, but anyway, it's just another little snippet.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for this. This was so fun. And
I love every moment of it.
Me too.
Love
And we have one more section. So I'm really excited for our next call.
Oh my gosh. And we get deeper and deeper with the next one.
Oh, chances are we're going to fall in love.
Holy bajoli. I mean, they've asked us about affection and love and relationships with our mothers.
And expectations.
What on earth could be next?
I can't wait to find out.
I can't wait either. Thank you, Wendy. I've loved every second of it.
Thank you, Jane, as have I.
Toodaloo.
Bye-bye.
We have loved this conversation and sharing this love letter with you, and we would like to invite you to send us your love letters. Visit the link in the show notes to send us your letters and to join our email list.
The thoughts of this chateau gently whisper, trust her word.